The journey to self-acceptance begins with one simple yet profoundly difficult realization. You must stop seeking approval. It's a harsh truth, one that many of us resist because we've been conditioned to look outward for validation. From childhood, we're taught to earn the praise of others. We strive for approval from parents, teachers, friends, and society, believing that external validation will fill the emptiness we feel inside. But this reliance on external approval is dangerous. It strips us of our own identity, leaving us constantly chasing the next compliment, the next good job, the next acknowledgement. This never-ending pursuit of validation becomes a trap, a cycle that leads to exhaustion and emotional instability. The truth is, no amount of approval from others can truly satisfy your soul. If you're not at peace with who you are, at some point you must ask yourself, why are you seeking approval? What drives this need to please others, to make them happy at the expense of your own peace? It's often rooted in insecurity, fear of rejection, and a deep desire for acceptance. But here's the harsh reality. The approval of others is fleeting, unreliable, and ultimately unfulfilling. You might receive praise today, but it will be gone tomorrow, leaving you once again searching for the next fix. The more you seek approval from others, the more you relinquish control over your own sense of self-worth. You allow external forces to dictate how you feel about yourself instead of finding the power to define your own value. The constant need for approval can also create a toxic cycle of self-doubt and fear. When your self-worth is tied to others' opinions, even the slightest criticism can send you into a spiral of insecurity. Every comment, whether positive or negative, becomes a reflection of your value. This constant external evaluation means you're always on edge, constantly questioning your actions, choices, and worth. It's exhausting and debilitating. You lose touch with your true self, and instead you begin to shape your behavior around what will garner the most approval. Over time, you may find that you no longer know who you truly are. Your actions, your decisions, and your emotions are shaped by the desires and expectations of others, leaving you disconnected from your authentic self. And this disconnection comes at a great cost. It prevents you from growing into the person you are meant to be. You become stuck in a loop, unable to break free because you're too focused on pleasing others instead of pursuing your own happiness and fulfillment. Moreover, the act of constantly seeking approval can rob you of the chance to live authentically. True happiness comes from living in alignment with your values, not in constantly molding yourself to fit someone else's idea of what you should be. When you stop seeking approval, you begin to take ownership of your life, embracing your imperfections, your flaws, and your unique qualities. You stop pretending to be someone you're not, and in doing so, you start to build a life that reflects who you truly are. But it takes courage to make this shift. It's not easy to let go of the comfort of external validation. For many, it feels like letting go of a lifeline. But the harsh truth is that as long as you cling to this need for approval, you'll never be free to experience the joy and fulfillment that come from living authentically. And that's as you release the need for approval, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to discover your true power. When you stop relying on others to define your worth, you gain the freedom to trust yourself, to make decisions based on your own values, and to live unapologetically. No longer do you seek validation from others because you recognize that your worth is not determined by them. It's determined by you. This realization is liberating. It opens the door to self-love, personal growth, and a deep sense of peace. Without the weight of constantly needing approval, you begin to focus on what truly matters to you, setting your own goals, creating your own path, and embracing the unique journey you're meant to take. And as you live more authentically, you'll find that the right people will be drawn to you. Those who appreciate you for who you truly are, not for who you pretend to be. In fact, the pursuit of approval often leads to a life of compromise, of constantly bending to meet the expectations of others. You may find yourself trapped in relationships, careers, and situations that don't truly align with who you are, all because you're trying to gain the approval of those around you. This kind of life is filled with resentment, dissatisfaction, and a constant feeling of being stuck. But when you stop seeking approval, you give yourself permission to say no to what doesn't serve you. You stop apologizing for who you are and start creating a life that aligns with your authentic desires. It's not always an easy path, but it's the only path that leads to genuine happiness and fulfillment. The journey to stop seeking approval is a process, a difficult and often painful one. But it is also a necessary one for your growth. It requires a shift in mindset from external validation to internal peace. You must learn to trust yourself, to make mistakes, and to understand that you are enough, just as you are. The harsh truth is that seeking approval from others will never bring lasting happiness. Only by embracing your true self, by letting go of the need for external validation, can you begin to experience the peace and fulfillment that come from living authentically. This is the key to living a life that is truly yours, a life that is free from the chains of comparison, judgment, and insecurity. When you stop seeking approval, you stop chasing after something that is out of your control. You begin to trust that you are worthy not because someone else says so, but because you believe it for yourself. The harsh truth is that external validation is an illusion. It's temporary, unreliable, and ultimately unsatisfying. The only approval that truly matters is your own. And once you realize that, you will be free. Free to live your life on your terms, to embrace your flaws, to make mistakes, and to grow. Free to experience the joy of being exactly who you are, without apology. And that, in the end, is the most powerful approval you can ever seek. The path to self-empowerment is not always smooth. In fact, it's often rocky and filled with obstacles, especially when it comes to relinquishing the need for external validation. There will be moments of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. When you start to break free from the chains of approval, people may question you, criticize you, or even try to bring you back into the fold of conformity. It's difficult to stay true to yourself in a world that constantly pushes you to seek validation from others. But in these moments, it's important to remember that these challenges are part of the process. They are the very tests that will prove to you how strong and capable you are of living on your own terms. Each time you stand up for yourself, each time you choose to honor your own values over the opinions of others, you strengthen your sense of self-worth. You begin to realize that your life doesn't have to be dictated by anyone else's expectations. You get to choose how you live, how you love, and how you grow. And yet the desire for approval is insidious. It doesn't simply disappear overnight. It lingers in the quiet moments and the spaces between your thoughts. It whispers to you when you least expect it, convincing you that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy unless others validate you. It's a constant battle, one that requires patience, self-awareness, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. But the more you practice letting go of the need for approval, the more natural it becomes. You begin to recognize these old patterns of seeking validation, and you learn to challenge them. You stop seeking approval from others, not because you're cold or indifferent, but because you've learned to love and trust yourself enough to know that your worth is not up for debate. The moment you stop seeking approval, you open yourself up to a world of possibilities. No longer are you confined by the expectations of others or the fear of rejection. You are free to pursue your dreams, to follow your passions, and to create a life that feels authentic to you. It's a life where you no longer have to mold yourself into something you're not just to be accepted. Instead, you begin to attract people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your true self. The power of this shift cannot be overstated. When you stop seeking approval, you stop compromising your happiness, you stop pretending to be someone you're not just to fit in, and in that space of radical self-acceptance, you begin to experience true fulfillment. In this newfound freedom, you may also discover that you no longer feel the need to seek approval from others because you are no longer driven by insecurity. You begin to realize that you are enough, just as you are. This realization is not an overnight transformation, but it's one of the most profound changes you can make. You learn to celebrate yourself, to embrace your imperfections, and to honor your unique path. And you no longer feel like you need to be perfect to be worthy. Instead, you embrace the beauty in your flaws and imperfections, knowing that they are what make you human and real. Letting go of the need for approval also teaches you the importance of self-compassion. Instead of harshly judging yourself for not meeting some external standard, you begin to treat yourself with kindness and understanding. You recognize that it's okay to make mistakes, to stumble, and to fall, because you know that these moments don't define you, they simply allow you to grow. Self-compassion becomes the cornerstone of your journey toward self-acceptance. You begin to realize that your mistakes are not signs of failure, but opportunities for learning and growth. And this shift in perspective is incredibly liberating. It allows you to move forward with confidence, knowing that you don't need anyone's approval to be worthy of love, respect, and success. As you continue this journey, you will begin to notice that your relationship with others starts to shift as well. When you stop seeking approval, you stop relying on others for validation, which creates space for more authentic, genuine connections. You stop molding yourself to fit into other people's expectations, and as a result, you start attracting. No longer are you seeking out relationships for the sole purpose of feeling validated. Instead, you find yourself building deeper connections with people who appreciate you for who you truly are. The friendships you cultivate are no longer based on performance or pleasing others. They are rooted in honesty, trust, and emotional reciprocity. These relationships are built on a foundation of mutual admiration and respect, where both parties can exist authentically without fear of judgment. Interestingly, as you free yourself from the need for approval, you also free others. You give them permission to do the same. When you stop constantly trying to please, you stop setting unrealistic standards for others to meet as well. You stop expecting them to validate you, and in turn, you stop putting pressure on them to fit into your expectations. This creates a ripple effect of freedom and authenticity. People are no longer forced to wear masks or conform to societal standards because they see you embracing your true self, flaws and all. This shift in perspective allows for deeper, more meaningful interactions with others, and it fosters an environment of acceptance where people can feel comfortable just being themselves. On a deeper level, when you stop seeking approval, you begin to uncover your own unique voice. For so long, you may have been silenced by the opinions of others, but now you are free to speak your truth without fear of judgment. You stop censoring your thoughts and feelings in order to please others, and you start expressing yourself authentically. You no longer shrink in the presence of others or hold back your ideas and passions. Instead, you begin to take ownership of your voice, your thoughts, and your beliefs. And in doing so, you realize that your voice is valuable, powerful, and worthy of being heard. This sense of power comes not from dominating others, but from within. It's a quiet yet undeniable strength that comes from knowing who you are and standing firm in your truth. No longer are you at the mercy of others' opinions or judgments. You no longer seek to appease others because you understand that your happiness does not depend on their approval. You begin to understand that true power lies in your ability to stand on your own 2 feet, to trust yourself, and to make decisions that are in alignment with your true self. When you start living for yourself, you start living with purpose. You begin to understand that your life is your own and that you don't need anyone's permission to pursue your dreams. This realization is incredibly empowering. You no longer waste time and energy trying to fit into someone else's mold. Instead, you channel that energy into living a life that is authentic and fulfilling. Every decision you make, every action you take, becomes a reflection of your true self, not of the expectations placed upon you by others. You begin to live in a way that honors your values, your passions, and your aspirations. You no longer feel lost or uncertain about your path because you know that it's uniquely yours to create. And as you walk this path, you find that the approval you once sought from others becomes irrelevant. It simply doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you are living in alignment with who you truly are, and that is the most fulfilling, liberating feeling you can experience. You start to experience a deep sense of peace that comes from knowing that you are enough, just as you are. No longer do you feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. Instead, you begin to embrace the beauty in simply being yourself. The harsh truth is that the approval of others is a fleeting and unreliable source of validation. But the approval that comes from within, the approval that you give yourself, is unwavering and constant. It's the only approval that truly matters. As you continue to shed the need for approval, you start to experience life in its truest, most authentic form. You start to make decisions based on your own desires and needs, not based on the expectations of others. You stop seeking external validation and start finding joy in simply being. You begin to embrace your imperfections and see them as part of your unique beauty. No longer do you measure your worth by how others perceive you. Instead, you measure your worth by how you perceive yourself. And as you do this, you begin to experience a life that is richer, fuller, and more meaningful.